Rangzo, on getting like just a drawing, like the getting I love Jala Lagoris, Naganes in it, getting you going to Yenda, and it's Geshe Thubten Rabten, and get the deposition to Chavata, and the main big Genelia, and the Katanya loss about the Gunjia, some Guinea, Koyo Mares, and the Masse, and the Rapjung doesn't seem by Jilaya, and Delia, Yending, Chachuba, Zankorongi, Devache, and the Rapjung dots in by the Delia and Magic Gubata, and Dushine, Jawama, Delia, and Jig Bane, Yeshu Chavata, Katanya Losoba, Deniki Jigua Mares, and you want to get cared and you get at a Kenzo de Kara, Kenzo Jigmin, Lodra Yomar, Kenzo Gom Yomar said, Undus in the Gunju Regina, and to shake your mares, Undus in the Jawores, Genishavina, and the Sosugi Yam Jiki Yavana, Sosugi and the Tong Shanda, Yun Tongu, and the Kosulanga, Nayun, the Chabat Papa, Nashi, which Choto Cuba is in the Nayaki, Nayatani, Yabasaki, Dikaban, and Bameki, and Bameki, the Sosugi, no more Gazin, Lianga Basai, Restichan, those subjects, and that to share what he has. And they must say, and then I'll get sustinate dimension that Lama command ye, Ganesian and Jeva Nashin, Geno, Anzuina, Dushin and Yaman Chevores, then a Lama competition to Bola, Najuba Chipocoron to him. Real and Basebo, Chunjuish, Tomba in Lamgativa, Tomba and Tibaji, Tonted, Guinean Gonjoki, public it in the Namzeti him, and the Sebo, the Mabu Chugo, Denisa, Pabi in the Guinean Gasure, Denigi Indian, Jesuit, and the Jig, Devachin, and the Saboti Pa, Rubji, and the Jig, Tsongkhapa, Shago, is going to do Snangor, and also in the Shago, Kasan Digo on the tissue.
Good morning. And last night, we concluded looking at the presentation on the 3 precepts relating to each of the jewels individually in terms of what we should adopt. And so we looked at the precept or the training in relation to the Sangha jewel. And the purpose of these precepts is by training in them, or rather maybe translated better as trainings rather than precepts. The purpose of these trainings is that by training one's mind in them, one's refuge becomes more heartfelt and more stable. So the training in relation to the Sangha jewel is that having reflected earlier on the many qualities of this refuge jewel, making them a suitable group to turn to for protecting refuge, through having reflected well on their many remarkable qualities, that is what one should focus on. And if in one's mind their perceived faults appear, or their perceived faults arise in our mind, we shouldn't dwell on that. Because if we dwell on their faults, then our perception of their qualities will become unbalanced. Because in reality, they have remarkable qualities. And if they are not Buddhist, then they will have some faults. But by focusing on their faults, the balance, the correct balance, will be lost in our mind. So therefore, if one notices with mindfulness and vigilance, notices with vigilance that one's mind is dwelling on faults, immediately draw it back to their good qualities, which are abundant. And then whilst this advice is being given directly in the context of the Sangha jewel, one should infer general advice from this. In other words, at how we should generally live our life. So then Lama Tsongkhapa continued to present how we should not divide groups into my group and other groups, because this process of division, of discrimination, leads to emphasizing the good qualities of my group and emphasizing the faults of other groups. And one may well not only exaggerate qualities and faults, but even construct faults in other groups. So this is to be divided, and rather one should focus on the commonality between groups, and certainly also, then Lama Tsongkhapa went on to talk about practitioners, that one should not be focusing on the faults of others. If faults in others, especially as in this context, one's fellow Dharma practitioners, if their faults appear to your mind, Don't dwell on that. This isn't the whole story. They are not defined by their faults. Rather, remind yourself of their good qualities, whoever they are. Because whomever appears to your mind, that being, that person, has many remarkable qualities. So that one should rather focus on those than allowing one's mind to go to the side of criticizing, because that leads one to the afflictions, or that is the side of the afflictions, and thereby one ends up accumulating non-virtue. And then finally, Lama Tsongkhapa presented examples from great practitioners of the past. And the very purpose of presenting such examples is so that we can be inspired and follow their example. So when they saw signs of ordination, due to their intense reflection on the great qualities of the Sangha jewel, they would even relate to the ordinary Sangha and even the signs of the ordinary Sangha with deep reverence and respect. So this is an example that we should take. In particular, the way of thinking that led to that behavior. That is what we should be emulating within by training in the way that's been presented. So that then concludes the first part of the training in the refuge precepts, or the refuge trainings, where we looked at those 6 relating to each individual jewel, one of which is to be stopped and one of which is to be accomplished. Now we come to a second grouping of 6 trainings to engage in, to strengthen one's refuge. And these 6 are in relation to all 3 jewels, not to one specifically. So in the ebook, the handout, in the middle page 131, and in the published book, in the middle page 111. Common precepts relating to all 3 objects of refuge. This are 6 points. Firstly, by recollecting the distinctions and excellent qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. Secondly, by recollecting the great kindness of the 3 jewels, always make effort to honor them and offer them the first portion of your food and drink.
Captain Bobori, Sichisangan Jugia, Tarvada, Temji Kimio, Kopan, Tobarchi, Lam Yamniji, Rimbadi, Dungin, Sweet Dungur, Sanyo Jim, Dungri, that's Tempovache. Dini, in that Sanyo Jim, Diki, Dumbigi, Kabar, Yunde, Harriers, and Sanyo Koron, and Nyamo, Yamane, Yamnenji, Yamni Rimba, Susu Yamyot, and Yamne Tarchimba, Yun Kunzi, Yunde, Gundi, Cesada, Sliman, and they come down. Some change come down weba tamje kenche kan tyomba ina an kemba jire jiza come down weba simjele pando kari pando chigide dia chasan kingores kemba za da delia chue kari dusu kidi tingo dia kingores dine za da denige denha kari tingo dia kingores jiza san yile kembe yende ane yores yende dinisi yore 지선다 꾸윤데 네 계시 녀마 슈가 나지 꾸윤데 나 감남매버 팀비 꾸윤 넘버 가레스 되네 코로나 판도 주고이나 니 꾸윤 넘버 되투야 송규되네 송가레 송베나 코로나 고투야기 도시는 송규인데 구성 도시인데 지나 되네 자 상여 점년디 다 겹된 법을 캐버를 전지레 세다데 지네 되네게 상기기 케 건조 숨기 캐버 겹된 법을 겹된 비교 현대 열된 두고 체주된 열에서 되네 차상 캠비하고 돈에 다 산요건절이야 다 등은 탐지급이 뉴바디 이 가서 산요건절 겹그리 셈베다 건졌음 산요건절이야 겹소 줘야 돼 디샤고로 보다 지산 캐버를 쉐비고네 겹소 줘와서
Let's briefly go through all 6, looking at the first then. By recollecting the distinctions and excellent qualities of the 3 jewels, go for refuge again and again. The 3 jewels then refer to the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, and the Sangha jewel. So one thinks about the distinctions between them, what makes, so that there is not a single jewel, but 3 individual jewels, and the various qualities that mark each of the individual jewels. So to speak about the Buddha jewel. So the Buddha is the founder teacher, the teacher who presented the complete and unmistaken path to train our minds in order to become a Buddha just like him. The Buddha is able to present this path based on his own extensive endeavors over countless lifetimes, the gathering of knowledge and the integration of that knowledge through meditation and the expression of that integrated knowledge in his various activities led him to abandon the afflictions together with their seeds and their stains. So the obscurations to liberation and omniscience were both abandoned by the Buddha. And that attainment led him to being a perfected being. And we looked at the qualities of the Buddha's body, the qualities of the Buddha's speech, and the qualities of the Buddha's mind. And the qualities of the Buddha's mind were presented in 2, his exalted knowing and his compassion. So because of these qualities arose because the Buddha abandoned all the obscurations on the mind that prevent one's qualities being developed. And because they're abandoned completely, the good qualities of the Buddha are perfectly developed or completely developed. This means, in terms of his exalted knowing, his omniscient consciousness, he knows each being's individual karmic disposition. He knows their inclinations and therefore is able to guide beings perfectly in terms of what is best suited to their current level of understanding, their current development. And therefore, the Buddha is an incomparable guide. Moreover, we looked at the enlightened activities of the Buddha. So this was this detailed presentation of what makes the Buddha jewel suitable to turn to for protecting refuge. In other words, that by relying on the Buddha, one can have confidence in the guidance received. And this then points to the very meaning of refuge, which is to have our mind open and receptive to the guidance, to receive it and apply it precisely in the way that it is given. So this mental act of entrusting ourselves to the 3 jewels, seeing them as our protector and our support, this is the meaning of refuge.
Di topjigal pabigiga lamdendela the chekonjo dini di chekonjo that di chekonjo de gyapngoi re saji gyapngoi re sa de kharena na di rang gule anzu gule gyewa na gyeyong du dina ngazo khorwe nyomo khowale dre de tarba thoya dam nyomo ba pangbi gokten de gule gyeyong du ngazo tarba thobare jisanda khowale droware jisan kangale seware sawongone di chego jisan di gule gyedi gyapngoi re saji Zada Dinigi Gapmuinza, Dinigi Kechu, Yenden Kariorosine, Jizada Lam said Lamdi Rangulin, Gomyodu, Digomba Goni Gondo Pedu, Nyomo Batikipa, Chuchunjo Dajin, Bangbe Bamba Gotin Suki Yongores. Dizadini Zadi Hago Tone, Dina Hago, the Keba the Hago Jin, Dine, and Dinigi Chukonjo, the Matum the Tubman Jizadi Chukonjo and Gule Geba in the. Kuridum Kasale, Kangale, Sea, Rekoan, 안손을 껴 코하다 안손을 껴베야 탈그리 선비기 이체 제산디 껴고레스비 이체 바인자 네디 최고권조디 네 토벌 지기인 선비 삼다야되다 최고권조라 겹수 좋아디 개발시비 관에 겹수 좋아지 시작으로 와다
Staying with the first point, there it specifically mentions the three jewels. So I spoke now, briefly recapped some of the qualities of the Buddha jewel. So the second of the three jewels, the Dharma jewel. So the Dharma jewel refers to the true cessations and the true paths in the continuum of Arya beings. This is the Dharma jewel. And what it is the abandonment of the afflictions together with their seeds, and that which has come about through cultivating true paths and leads to the attainment of true cessations. This means these Arya beings have attained freedom from suffering. So the Dharma jewel is, whilst the Buddha jewel is the founder, the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge. So the Buddha jewel is the founder teacher, the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge. And the reason is, the way one cultivates the Dharma jewel within is by hearing teachings and gathering knowledge and cultivating that knowledge within one's own mind in the way one is being guided in the teachings. This is how one starts to reduce the strength of the afflictions. And this is how one progresses towards attaining a path, and eventually this mental path will be developed to the extent where emptiness is realized directly. And as this realization of emptiness, this direct realization of emptiness, which then has come about through cultivating a true path and has led to a true cessation, is developed further, eradicating layers of afflictions together with their seeds, one attains liberation or freedom from the suffering of samsara. And this is the very purpose of the Buddha Dharma in its entirety, is to help each individual being attain their own liberation from suffering. And it is done through cultivating the Dharma jewel within one's own mind. So we all want to abide free of problems and difficulties. We all want to abide with a mind that's at peace, at ease. And the way to do so is through cultivating the Dharma within oneself. And with this understanding and recognition that the Dharma jewel is one's actual refuge, one turns to the Dharma jewel for protecting refuge. And again, this means that one is open and receptive to the guidance and applies oneself wholeheartedly to developing the guidance within.
냠len 제비 가라 마싱 바다 마도 함홀이야 룩된치긴 냠lengi rimbachilia rochikin inza giri daro se 지사다디 코롱기 되네제 대장 코롱을 키셔 있는 가려서는 코롱 상yi 아니 제소장 상yi 숨베 람된들라 냠수 렌제 냠렌제 코롱규라 아니 고테나 람된 규라 기여바 기여바 파비카사 코롱 냠뇨에 된 말이 지사데네자 코롱리아 셴리아 펜베지 로바에 지기 셴펜게 삼바유데 바 인자 안델리아 아니지 데 코롱기에 아저 로바 체알리아 체좀 균에 매 로바 지그리 셴베기다 셴미 로바 지투이 뉴바요레 로바에 지그리 셴베기다 데니기 이체데 다 코롱기 키주에다 윤덴디게 통내 안델리아 게된 거죠. 그냥 냠내제 발라 게된 로 지그리 셴베 이 셴딩게 이체바게 운두신 이치게 오래서 그러다.
The third jewel then is that of the Sangha jewel. So these are, whilst the Buddha jewel was the founder teacher and the Dharma jewel's actual refuge, the Sangha jewel, they play the function of being our companions, of guiding us, traveling together along this journey towards our own enlightenment. So here one reflects on the many great qualities, recognizing that the Sangha, the individual Arya beings, the Sangha jewel, the individual Arya beings who comprise the Sangha jewel, they have developed transformative experience of the Buddha Dharma, and thereby they are Arya beings. They are illustrations of the Sangha jewel. Reflecting well on this, removing any trace of doubt in their capacity to assist us in the attainment of our own liberation, comes about through reflecting deeply on their qualities. And this then leads us to being open and receptive to their guidance, wholeheartedly seeking it and applying it.
잠니제 냠내지 파진 중에 가와집에 맞아 되네 가와지 냠내지네 심지어 탐지게 된다라 안주게 된다라 상계 말에 대 상계네 안 상계에 안주된다야 안지 거의 아주 동화세야 된 디기주비야 탈바 탐지kim에 고방 토베야리야 안 상계기는 최 아주 냠내지 받는 시송바래 배마시빙 안주 된다리야 이치 갈래잡 안에 그러죠 탈신 상계고방 토바이네야 다 되는 그런다 오늘 동아 탐지세 견세 윤대 탐지 된바래데 이나데 누가지 되라야 람된 제제 두치는 최송제 송바래 제가 송지는 안아주 되데 봐도 두치는 소소게 냠내지에 라와디베 마시 안아주게 딕비 디보 포야다 게오르베 돼서 중세 하고와디 다 상계랑 게 깨지네 선비게 두치는 소소게 게주 중세주의요 라와디 상계 깨지네 세베 두치는 상계 깨진 제수 된거래 예지래
The second of the six, by recollecting the great kindness of the three jewels, always make effort to honor them and offer them the first portion of your food and drink. Here, one reflects on how the Buddhas, as well as all other Arya beings, how they have trained for eons, and they have done so not solely for their own betterment, but for the sake of all mother sentient beings, of which I myself am included. So therefore, their training they did for me as well as all others. And recognizing the tremendous hardships that over countless lifetimes they endured in order to spiritually develop. And they did so, not solely for their own betterment, but to help others. Reflecting well like this should lead to a deep sense of gratitude arising within oneself. And recognizing that all that one has come to learn about the role the afflictions play in destroying our happiness, creating the causes for further suffering, as well as all that we've come to learn in terms of how to abandon those afflictions, as well as all that we have actually done to try and reduce the strength of the afflictions. All of that has come about in dependence on the kindness of the three jewels, in that it's through the endeavors of others that we have been able to receive this guidance, that we have, whatever we know, has come about in dependence on their kindness. Therefore, our growing spiritual development has come about in dependence on the kindness of others. In particular here, we think of the three jewels. So in this way, a deep sense of gratitude arises, and that gratitude then is expressed in a wish to repay kindness.
군에 라진 안줄이야 뒤다 넘버 군도 네 로체야다 상예기 간나신 줌녀 화도 두시는 안줄이야 지람된 지야다 은신이 동아시야된 디기투비알이야 냠는지알이야 팸버드니 주보레스 배마시 게진 침보레스 제자던 도르드나 안주게 데니게 다데 소소라랑래 배마시 건지게 건지어 숨보티다 시고지 게진 침보 지레스 제자다데 안주게 개와 준지지야 고가브라와다 덴디게 소남 사요 고가라와 딕비게 디레 아니 개와 디레 방롱게 내서 준지 하고 봐디 gebne konjusumni ketinje se jesan ketin chim hiu jiredo a sembe denege ketin jesu de Geshe Chisu Tenpe Tone, Dene Yang Du Dato Cheba Le Zunpa, Dene Za Geshe Chimbo De, Da Sang Gyamne Gonjo Rangla Geshe Chimbo, Dene Ge Chu Song, Geshe Gonjo Yang Roba Chi, Di Cheba De Karesene, Nang Zo Yagye Juya, Kowe Dunga Le Sere, Lam Nyamne, Koronzo Nashi Yongya Ge Dondala, Konsu Dus Nengo, Shizada Ngane, Koronzo Nashi, Nyamne Jetuba, Jetuba Jigi, Sempe Tone, Da, Sosugi, Dibonki Ruchia, Susugi, Du Dato Cheba Pua Sang Yelia, and the Jig Sang Gonjo Sumlia, Gonjo Sumi, Geshe Jesu Tempe Tone, and the Gonjo Sumlia Cheba Pua, Jupine, Anzuki, Yenja Pua, Cha, Sawala Soba, Medo Pua Soba, the Dini Yuja Pua Soba, Dini Che Pualia, and the Jig Sansing Cheba Pua, Dini Sosugi, Nyamenja, Jubu Cheba Cheba, Jason Sosugi, the San Yi, Genu Gonjo, Dini Shi, Malia, Dusna, Geshe Chimbo, Dia Sosugi, Nyamne Yahu Yoya Dandala, Ma Dich, Sung, Dinis Geshe Jawa, Dezang, Nyamne Jigin, Simple Sosugi, the Gom Jaya Soba, the Negi, and Chiki Jehom, the Johon Soba Karachevena, Undu Shevena, and this one, the Negi Jehori, as you do out of Chebas, Chebal James. James said, if I do it. Cheba, James, then the Chobu, a busy Chevori, as something Cheba, and Jubu Cheba, as a bitch Chevoris.
So here, through the meditations done already in this chapter, one will have recognized the remarkable qualities that the three jewels have, recognizing what remarkable beings these are. And here we encourage to turn our mind to how they became such remarkable beings. It wasn't through chance or good luck, but it was through lifetimes of striving to cultivate their own minds. And to do so, they endured a number of hardships and challenges. And these we know from the biographies of great beings. Just the sheer hardships that for us we'd find unbearable. But they not only endured these hardships, but they did so for the sake of others such as myself. So this is important to recognize that they weren't following self-interest, because there are beings in this world who do endure terrible circumstances. But the hardships that these great practitioners endured were for the sake of others. It wasn't for their own survival, but it was for their spiritual development, so they could be of great benefit to others. And they have been to so many others, including myself. All the guidance that I've received that has led me to accumulate the merit on my continuum, and has therefore led to the excellent comforts and resources and results that I am enjoying, has come about in dependence on their tremendous kindness. Reflecting deeply in this way will lead to a deep and abiding sense of gratitude. And this is important to get to, this feeling of an abiding feeling of gratitude, because we'll recognize our interdependent relationship with others, and from this feeling of gratitude, a wish to repay the kindness will arise, and we'll wish to repay this in various ways. So that our text make effort to honor. So the word. One Tibetan word is translated in many ways. Here is honor, in other places worship, in other places offerings. One makes effort to honor them, and the way one honors them is to make offerings. And the offerings that one makes, there are a variety. One makes material offerings, one makes offerings of praise, but the offering that has greatest value is the offering of our practice. And this means, through this deep sense of gratitude that has arisen in response to recognizing the great kindness they have shown us, this deep sense of gratitude leads us to want to become open and receptive to the guidance of the three jewels, thereby seek teachings and strive to apply the teachings within. So therefore, the way to understand this make effort to honor the three jewels by striving to cultivate the teachings within in precisely the way that is guided. So this would involve studying and then integrating that the study through analytical meditation, placement meditation, as well as through physical activities such as circumambulation or verbal activities such as mantra recitation. So these are the expressions of our gratitude, and it is our making effort to honor the great kindness that has been shown to us.
Dine zanda 저기 이미 답을 저 칼라사야다 주tun야로서 봐 넘긴데 가서 도 용거와 제자다 사와다 자와 부경 울와 세도 제상은 인더리 신나 가서 칼라사고로 주동거라는 적되게 세고레스 제자 디네 인자 데 권주스미 그진 제수 전배 통에 당보 최고부 아니 맞지 아주 주로 동이나다 안 자로지네 자야로 카리네 아주 칼라 마세니엘이야 아니야 권주리요 초 그진 권주스미 되게 당아 개와 주에 여바다 되게 지금 냠내 제배 권주 그진 권주스미 그지 샘비게다 도신이 제수 전배 통에 아니야 권주스미야 최고부고레스 디 최고부에는 인달에 가서 그디나디 즉 차선 님의 답을 사되고 동되고 진짜 되니 최고부에는 되니 최고부에는 인달 차선 자루고 제가 되니게 난 야당 보건절에 최고부고 부에야 버리 부고래서 사와다 제비 부야 우와서 울와서는 부와서
It specifically mentions offer them the first portion of your food and drink. This is mentioned because it's something that's particularly easy to do, and also it's something that one does regularly. We eat and drink many times in a day. So here the guidance is that before one partakes in drinking some water or drinking some tea or eating a meal, first pause and turn your mind away from the easing of one's suffering that eating a meal when you're hungry will bring, or turn one's mind away from the enjoyments and pleasure that you are looking forward to, and recall the great kindness of others, here in particular the three jewels. And through this, we turn away from our own self-interest and remind ourselves of our interdependent connection with all, and in particular in this context, and our reliance, our interdependent relationship on the three jewels, recognizing that all that we have has come about in an interdependent manner. All that we have received has come about in dependence on the kindness of many beings. So therefore, before partaking in something to eat or something to drink, offer it, and thereby step back from one's own self-interest. Make offerings to the three jewels and remember their great kindness.
되게 제가 부고레스 나당도 되게 사나 돈이야기가 최고의 책으로지 먼저 안에 최고의 책을 되어요와 계시다 책도 되어요바나 야고를 되어 매번에 소식이 삼로나리야 소식이 가래부기 자도 약간 되나 야 권조 때문에 권조 숨자데 먼저 배 진지마다 그린치고 이배 인된 켜봐도 봐봐들이 선비기 통에 나지 권조숨을 피기 선비기 당에 피기 선비기다 삼로시다 제는 아주 두 세션에 삼다네 그 되면은 이거로 와다 저 삼로다에 차거로 와
Usually the usual approach is that when one offers the first portion of one's food or drink, or offers the first portion, before one partakes of the food or drink, one offers it, that one will do so with the recitation of verses. And if you know these, then by all means it's good to do so. But whether one knows them or does not, what is important is your mental activity. Mindlessly reciting verses is of very little benefit. So whether you're reciting verses or you just relying on your own thoughts, the way to offer is to first recall their qualities and the kindness of the three jewels. And with the sense of resulting gratitude, offer to them first, recognizing that this meal, that this clean and pleasant environment has all come about interdependently, one repays the kindness by offering to others first.
Somebody Niji Chenpe, Jesu Chenpe, Zhuo Shen La, Cui Didabo La Gui Bas.
Then the third common precept, by recollecting great compassion, establish other beings in this kind of practice.
Niji Chenpo, Jesu Chenpa, said Niji Chenpo said, Didang, Semjen Tam Je Dunga Tadana, Jana, Sempe Samlodi, what the Niji Chenpo said, Semjen Tam Je. Dunga Tadale Jana Sempe Samlodi. She said, Dinti Samlodi, Niji Chimbo said, Semjen Tamje, Koy Dunga, Jawa Deba, Samlochi, that Samlodi Dinigi, Be Masi, Gachimbo, the Samlodile, Lapaji, Mevares. Dizada Dinigi, Niji Chimbo, the Semjet Dunga, Jana, Sempica, Samlodi, Yamlenji, or do, and the Digi, and Dinigi Yamlenji, Samlodi Gule Kevaina, Dini Shell, Teo Sambakuni Umarwa. Niji Chenpo Shenle Pembe Sambadi Kigrimato, Shenle Tsewe Sambadi, Nube Sambadi, Gangaji Samadi Yungumar, Dine Zada, Diva, and Digitone, Diva Manguju Gatu Gores. She said the Niji Chenpo the Suzuki Yule Kiaba, Niji Chenpo Diwange, Shenle Pembe Sambadi, Shuk Chenpo's late water, Shen Pembe Sambadi, Sosurang, Lunga Yusum Yukone, Shenle Pembe, Java the two Gores, Dineza, and Digi, Shenlia. Pemba Geshe Thubten Rabten was. She said that Niji Chenpo the Bendigo Yoba Kasi Shukchewa Kingi, Shenlia Pemba to some of the Shukche, or the Genjin, some jet tamjik in the Sanyo Koba Toprosho, Sibechan Semdia, Niji Chenpo Della Deneki to Waters. And then Deniki Niji Di Wangi, and some jet tamjik in the Sanyo Koba Topnaya, Sang Yenaya, and Niji Che Di Wangi, Sembia Tamjelia, and the Dunga said and Digi to a tablam Yamning, but danger. Kowe Dunga le Dorje, Dushin, Ganga Sewa Chigores, Chizadini, the Niji Chenpo said, Must sem dealer, Gachawa, and Pando Church, Minduch, the Niji Chimbo, Shiho, Jayapuchedua, Sembigim, the Niji Chimbigi, the Nigi, Chikoso, Yendena, Kejuki, Dushin, Semler, Beawares, the Nigger Sosina, the Niji, the Yamlin Jigin, Sembigi, Yamlin Jieta, then Yamlin Chene, and Dushin, Zhuo Shenyang. Didabo Goba, Sidi, the Nessimji Shamatiki, Shalaya, Nichi Pain, the Sosugida, the Niki Kob Yuba, the Niki, when Lamru Kob Redu, Semje Shambala, Nichi Yam and Jewel, Dusu Jewels, and Lamdun Deshi, Semje Shandala, Nichi Yam and Jelpa, Jesu Gores or that.
Look in the third common training then. Here, to talk first about great compassion. Great compassion is a mind that yearns for sentient beings to be freed of suffering and its causes. May beings not suffer, may they experience no problems, no difficulties. And great compassion is this mind, but in relation to each and every sentient being without exception. It's a mind that does not discriminate between a particular group, or even holding some a little dearer than others. But all, and moreover, it is explicit, may all sentient beings be freed of suffering and its causes, or attain freedom from suffering and its causes. And this is an incomparably important mind. It's indispensable to become a bodhisattva. So through generating a mind of compassion, even a mind that is of compassion that is relatively weak, this will lead us to not want to bring any harm to those we express compassion for. When actual compassion arises, all we'll want is for good to come to others. And I want our endeavors with others, our interactions with others, to only bring good. So what's so important with a mind of compassion is how to recognize the arisal of a mind of compassion, or its absence, is that when an afflicted thought towards others, in particular one of wanting harm to come, or rejoicing in harm coming to others, this cannot arise if there's a mind of compassion present. The stronger and more dominant compassion is within one, One will only want to benefit others, and one will only want others to be benefited, whether by yourself or others. And this then, through having a compassionate mind, this will have a transformative impact on our way we physically interact with others and the way we speak to and about others. Furthermore, to the extent compassion arises within one, a feeling of responsibility will arise. A feeling that merely wanting others to be freed of suffering is insufficient. I need to help others to attain freedom from suffering. I feel that myself progressing, I feel that I'm suffering less. I want to help others attain such a state. But to do so, I have to spiritually develop further. So in this way, compassion serves to push oneself in one's spiritual journey, so as to be of more benefit to others. Moreover, one will develop the deep yearning to help others, to guide them how to develop the mind of compassion within, to the extent that one is experiencing the benefits of the mind of compassion will have come about through your successful implementation of the trainings received. So the way to benefit others is to strive in the training oneself. And to the extent one's mind is changing, others will perceive the change in your behavior and speech. That is how we benefit others initially. Only later, when our mind is quite settled and stable, will our teachings be able to have their intended impact. So for now, we strive to develop actual compassion within us. And in this process of developing compassion, we will be benefiting others through our own lived example. So we've looked at the need to reflect on our interdependent relationship with others. This will lead to come to recognize their great kindness that they have either directly shown us or indirectly through their own individual beneficial activities that we receive benefit from. And we recognize, but they are suffering. May they be free of suffering, and we generate compassion. So we're developing both a relationship of gratitude and of compassion towards others.
야 뭐 공부도 줘야 돼. 야 차바 주면은 야 감두래. 뭐 공부도 말. 야 게 차바이네야. 야 주로 야 공대 표할이야. 이야기 줘야래 주고 그래서. 얘네 야 제부조식 다 차바이네. 야 주면은 야 감두래. 이제 제부 민바들에 주고 그래서 취시해야 되는 거 로또 답에 섬다면 당보 로또 서번 답에 급을 주고 그래. 얘네 바도 야고 이야기 줘야될 주고 그래. 근데 제보다 하나야 주고 그래. 주디 계신 모르겠. 제가 토다 벌숨을 계신 모르. 디나시 아주 냠는 제바 될래야. 샘제 탐지교도나 산요고 토발라 당보 안 당보 인지고 그래. 인지 디원게 전에 판배 삼의 계제. 아니 디토네 장주 샘게 냠는 기고래. 장주 샘게 발에 인지고 그래. 다 장주 샘게 사바이네. 다 인지면은 냠도에냐 어째서 장주심 냠내지네 파지주 냠내야 권역권도 펴와라야 아니 니지고 그래서 람님 바도 냠는 제발이 니지고 예체모시 그래서 나는 상계 고번 톱차바는 인지면은 되는 소소라랑 게 아니 시위 대화라 냠바샤시 현재确定 말와스 지자다 상계 고번 톱차네 인지 첨보여 봐서 인지 디원게 현지 동아세나 동아 자되게 삼보여 봐서 현재 동아 대위치도 确定 거래 지자다 상기고보 톱나야 닝지면나 현실에 최대야 용말에 제자들이 자다 닝지 첨보셔야지 아주 자주심 태바침이 주냐면 깨와라 자와 근데 인지 첨벌에 야 공배도 표화돼야 인지 첨벌에 제자다 상기에 차내야 셈제 탐 제리야 탈베람 냠내 림바 템바 기부 중요람 림바 징게람 림바 안지 기부 첨벌람 림바 템바 상이 쳐서 템바 디게 인지 옹이 템바래 제자 나는 줄길에 개와 강 중바 디게 이나 최 상기기 제조자 최 냠내 개와 강 중바이면 제자디 자와 인지를 되는 중국어래 제자 되네 이자 인지 첨벌이 맞아 냠내 제발로 토다 바로스는 기 첨벌이 대장에 야 정말 인지심벌에 최고 부위에서 자세계에서 이 받은 다와대 비금전들이送了 와다 간지 진이 제요 로도 푼조디 당봉 아시다의 신유 직지의 워들이어래 간지 진이 제요 로도 푼조디 세번단에 별라 추려 롱제도 롱제내라 민바다 보디기르바 대세다게 도만 이제 되어 버리지 제사당한 저 세븐 답이야. 아니 당보 나 세븐 답이 qabla 신리 답이 추구도 와서 주면나 세븐 유기도 말해지로. 가제 진행게 로도 분석이 로도세 디스우라. 되네 야 빌레데. 야 유기 사와나 야 셔셔 야기 로알 추구고래 차 주면나야 감주고래 야기 주고 말해 발라야 추구고래서. 다 제보로 민세 다사와나 주면나야 감주고래. 제보 다사나 이미 야보미야를 추구도 와서 제상당 니 별래잘 다 디난신 아주기 잠 이제 공로 전수 심 개발라야 너무 자원 인침 고고레스 제상 인지 침을 줄려면은 전수 심 줄려 기투 말레스 제상다 전수 심 개발 자원 인지를 되는 개고레지 난 전수 심 기에서는 바도 태과 침비 취념는 제가 대한 이야기 공도 줘봐들라 인지 침 보면은 아니 그것도 말 인지 원교고 인지 침 고고레스 제상다 냠는 태과 침에 취념을 열기 친제 상계 공부 톱차나 근데 니지 매바에는 현래 취때 받은 용말에 소소라랑 다 띵이들 냠바샤 되게 됐어 제자다 상계 공부 톱나 니지 여바제 니지 디왕게 현이 동화세야다 디기 주브레 탑름 띵거래 제자다 아주 냠는 태과 침에 취념을 제발라 당보 전시 셈게 발은 유니지 침먹고 파전 중에 냠는 탑침 받을라야 니지 침먹고 구글 제가 안에 상계 톱네 현래 취때 받을라야 안 니지 오메 총바레스 니지 제자 다 되네 인자다 상기기 최송발에 되네 아주기 냠내지는 아주기에 개회자와 관계 받음지다 자와 니지를 라리고레스 제자 되네 인자 니지디 아주기 취디 된도 답이야라 토다 벌스는 개체와 나시 아주 태바침비 취냠는 제발아야 는 자와 니지 첨보도 토다 벌스는 개체와레 디인자 토말 니지 첨보라야 어제 자세히 인사 송로다
one cannot overestimate the great importance of great compassion. It is absolutely foundational for spiritual practitioners who are drawn to the Mahayana. In fact, it's foundational for the beings to receive benefits. So when the great Indian master Chandrakirti composed his text, the supplement to the Middle Way, whilst this is a text on wisdom, he started by praising great compassion. The first several verses of the text praise great compassion. So the second verse of the text, since mercy, well, it should be compassion, since compassion itself is accepted as the seed of this excellent harvest of the conquerors, as water for development, and like the ripening in a state of long enjoyment, I therefore praise compassion at the beginning. So what Chandrakirti is saying, the final line, I therefore praise compassion at the beginning. At the outset of his text, over several verses, he is praising compassion. And why? No, the first line, since compassion itself is accepted as a seed of this excellent harvest of the conquerors. So compassion is required at the end of the path. It is still required for the enlightened activities of the Buddha. It is what motivates the enlightened activities of the Buddha. And it is water for development, and this is the verse again. It's required as water for development, and like the ripening in a state of long enjoyment. So it develops one's Buddha potential, and into the compassion serves to ripen the seed of our Mahayana lineage, enabling us to arise as a bodhisattva, to enter into the initial paths, the training paths of the bodhisattva. So great compassion is required right at the beginning of our training, as well as it's required at the very end of the training, in that it is what pushes the enlightened or causes the enlightened activities of the Buddhas. And moreover, for the entirety of the middle part, the cultivation and expression of the six perfections. So this is this ripening in a state of long enjoyment, the cultivation and expression of the six perfections. Great compassion is required there too. So here we see from one of the foremost masters of the Tibetan tradition, writing on wisdom, starts out by praising great compassion that is required at the very beginning of one's training. So therefore we should take this as inspiration for ourselves right now, that as aspirants to the bodhisattva path, cultivate compassion and utilize or conjoin compassion with all your other trainings. Ensure that in our context here of refuge, that our practice of refuge is done for the sake of others. The very purpose of turning for protecting refuge to the three jewels is so that we can receive, so that we can be open to their guidance, so that we can spiritually develop in order to benefit others. So in this way, for ourselves, as aspirants to the bodhisattva path, conjoin training compassion and conjoin it to every other practice that you're doing, every other meditation you're doing. To the extent that one develops compassion within, to that extent, you will recognize in your own life, you are able with relative ease to turn away from what has no real lasting value. All these activities, in particular what one thinks about, all these activities that have no real value or importance, and rather place one's energy, in particular one's mental energy, into what is important. So through cultivating compassion right now, where we are, it will enable us to embrace the teachings of the Buddha, embrace the trainings in refuge, cultivate them within, because we want to be of real, meaningful benefit to others.
안제사 얘네기 제사 여름지기 넘기 예송거리다 즉 여름지기 즉 시행이야 판도 주에게 조어시 차례 조어 갖는 것은 전심 여름지기다 니지 아주 잠바다 니지도 고우도 제사디 아주리아 지진들이야 강아 망보치려데 잠니지 매비 긴기 강아 리기도 제사 아주디 점리나리아 잠니지 냠는 체도 빼 마시 게침버리샤스 그래서는 아주 편준 막수 제바디야 시행이야 닝지 매바인자 안디기데 막수 리고레스 제사 시행이야 니지 제와 니지 공부했나 시행이야 안여비기에게 강아지에게 막수 점리지 막주디 우마레스 아직은 시행이야 닝지 매비 충위기기 아주게다 코리올이야 소수기 튕균주야리야 밤에 농주제제 안디는 코리올은 여긴 보아지 다지는 시행이야 강아 먹리고데 디세냐 시행이 닝지 매비 긴기리 제사 시행이야 닝지의 잠제의 닝지 주여바이나 오다 딩이 되는 시행이야 뇌주 강아 지기를 삼제 잼제디 용마레스 안디 매비게 안지기 때 최선에서는 되네게 나 중산전 안지 아주게 우지게 지소이나 소고지나래자 소수기 미사지리나다 소수기 즉 현리아 잠바다 제위 닝지 주여바이나 안델레 뉴베 삼바당 니강아제가 삼제 용무 말레스 그래서 되네자 맞아 낭 미사지리네야 안지 기후용고래 안에 지금 아주게 거의 눈돌리네 기후용고래 안에 강아 용 말에 제가 아주게 지소리네 강아 내가 가르치면 장부리게스 제가 닝지샬레 네바치나 오강아 치게샤네 야고요 말았으면 디니 여반네 내가 노트에다 샬레 네베디가 지금 제가 디니 고스에서 용줘야 아니 지게 지소리야 디기요야 안 점리지 디기요야 점리시리요야 양아주다 인지 메지 잠니지 공고를 디가서 라렌 따고래 디인지 메지 최 켈린 거예요 말에 최 마치네 잠니지 냠네 지고를 베네심제 눈로레나 파미기 부울이야 안제와다 잡아니제 용고래 최케밀엔 비긴 미나라 용고래 지나 디인사 잠니지 냠네 제디 인지미지 최기시 말에 최케레나 멜랭아 차상게 냠네 지고시레 디제바이나 저기 미유스에 베게 강한 목부제세 두그레스 제가 디페마서 계치모레 세gam지 안에 야도 답베지 또 지는 거지.
You would have heard His Holiness regularly talk about the great importance of love and compassion. And he says quite openly, this is a major focus of his, he says quite openly, a major focus of his is to encourage others to cultivate love and compassion. Because it is the solution to the suffering in our world, the suffering that beings are experiencing. For example, wherever there is conflict, when a conflict between individuals, whether, for example, in the home, or whether between groups and communities, or whether expressed as warfare between nations, this is an expression of the absence of compassion. If there's compassion within beings, they cannot engage in conflict with others. Compassion and conflict are completely contradictory. And not only one should not think of conflict merely as a physical expression. Conflict can be expressed through our way of speaking, even down to subtler areas of disharmony. One will not have heated arguments if one's heart is full of compassion. Moreover, when we look at a lot of other forms of harm in the world, such as the environmental disaster befalling our planet, this too comes from a lack of compassion. A lack of compassion is if compassion is lacking, all too often self-interest is dominant. And therefore, there's no real concern given to the results of one's impact, the results of one's activities on others that one considers unimportant, lesser than you and your group. And it's that way of thinking that has led to this environmental disaster. A lack of compassion leads to dishonesty coming from self-interest, taking advantage of others, placing oneself and one's group first and foremost. Whereas on the other hand, when one develops a compassionate heart, oneself is at peace. One's giving and open and warm towards others. This means oneself is much happier, and those around you, those in your direct orbit, they only receive benefit from your presence. If they are around you and their mind is dominated by the afflictions and they're in pain, your mere presence will almost certainly ease their afflictions, but it definitely will not lead to them gaining more strength. And moreover, through our actions, we will indirectly benefit those who we don't have direct contact with. For example, engaging in your various activities, whether at your place of work or elsewhere in society. By having a compassionate heart, one will engage with others in a way that's honest and straightforward. You'll not want to take advantage of others that you care for deeply. So therefore, by being honest, you will have a greater impact on society beyond those that you just meet directly. This mind of compassion is of great importance, not just for us as a Buddhist community, but for non-Buddhists too. And not just for us as humans, but for animals too. Any individual, to the extent they develop compassion, they themselves benefit, as to all those around them. So we should ensure that we relate to all, human and non-human, with care, with kindness, and with acceptance, free from discrimination, free from judgment.
아니네 자와 강체바당 거바 지유바나 군조숨나 최네 소와 대신 지딘비 탑신 봉와스.
Coming to the fourth training relating to the three objects of refuge. Whatever activities you engage in and whatever your purpose, honor the three jewels and make requests to them, abandoning all other worldly methods.
Jawa Kanjeba, Gobachiba, Susuke, Laka Chebine, that Digi, Goba, Dunda Karuku, Nasiguroda, and Jawa Kanjeba says Javala, Yazike, Sochube Jawa, Gume Jawa, Nubi Jawa, Moyorba, Cheda Midimbe Jawa, and Cheda Timbe Jawa. That's some just soldiers, Shall never change, Cheda Midimbe Jawa Chara, Sosuke Jalagi, Penukova, Shanki Jalara, Dundala, and the Shango, the Jun Shavaina, and the Cheda Midimbe Jawa. Tiza Jawa Kanji said. Tiza that Jawa Kanji said, the Jawa de Carson Cheda, Timbe Jawa Kanjeba, Nasumada. The Cheda Midimbe, some just soldiers, Kumago, the Lakunjus, Roger, Nukuma Yakutu, Shosaji, Digo Marwa. Tiza Jawa Kanji, Cheda, Timbe Jawa, Shenle Minube Jawa, and then go Sosugi, Cheda Timbe Jawa, Sosu, Sugi, Nango Timbigeda, or Ilu Timbige Jawa, Laga Karatuine, Jawa Karchebine, J and the Gobagi Daddy, Jawa Chibu Goba, Dunda Chibu, Karatu by name, Di Madambo, Gonjosumlia, Chebo Benecheba Chene, and so what deba, so what you do Chene. And Chebores, Tisan Mato, Gonjosum the Yi Michebache, then the Gonjosum Lada Yichi Mevaja, other did young Marson, Yichi Mevaja, Dile Shen, Jitin Big, Taishan, also by the Tapshan Daddy, dus Jina Digo Martini and Zada. Rana Chida Timbe Jawa Karachebe and Dambo, and the Conjusumlia, Yapsutro, the Conjusumlia, in Legati Dona, Yabu, Due Dondala Socio Monaja, the Chebu Puyalava, no so de Broje, and Dusine, and Legache Warriors, Maduan, the Conjusum Yi Mecheba, and the Conjusum Yi Mecheba, Conjusum by Ishimeva Shajin, and Dele Shamba order, and Chitimbe Hala Soba, the Dizio to Grisambedin, the Tapshit in the China, Jigio Mareso.
So here we are encouraged that before any endeavor we embark on, whether it's something we're physically going to do or conversation we're going to have, or just engaging in a process of thought, to start by supplicating the three jewels. So we're in the context here of refuge, so if one is turning to the three jewels to supplicate them, to make requests to them, one's heart will be open and receptive. So one will be wanting their guidance, wanting their influence. And here, what one is encouraged to do is for inspiration, so supplication leads to inspiration, that whatever one is about to do, that it is in accordance with the Dharma and not and not some worldly method that is contrary to the Dharma. So we're encouraged here that whatever we do, to have it as an expression of the minds of the Dharma. So we should act in a way that is ethical, that at the very least does not bring harm. And again, acting through our physical behavior, through our speech, our way of thinking, should be an expression that does not bring harm, and ideally should bring benefit. And this is not always the case in our world. The line ends with other worldly methods. In our world, various activities that are contrary to the Dharma are encouraged or perhaps justified. So various afflictions in our society are seen as, in certain circumstances, justifiable. So here we should not make this mistake. And certainly in certain circumstances, aggressive behavior and dishonest behavior and speech is justified by our society. Recognizing that, we should refrain from that. Recognizing, or with the understanding, as a practitioner of the Dharma, as a Buddhist, I supplicate the three jewels that my endeavors may only be in accordance with the three jewels. And where worldly behavior is encouraging me in another direction, that I refrain from that. And I keep my behavior within the ethical bounds of the Dharma.
Chike Susuki Lega do not to go at and Pache Silver of Shivan, the Conjusum that Chike Ishera Mebashi, 안에 내래 안에 지게 주요 송마라서 봐 이게 투레 삼제 안에 권주스는 이시메 바지 내래 뉴버체리 컨트롤 요라 선배 삼지 치줘라 다베네 데티게 매반다 자고 지게 권주스는 이체베 토네 양지미 이체베 토네 안 될이야 양지 저 친려야게 정말 저게 친려시나 지거로 봐 세수게 내가 바시세에게 된다라야 권주스는 권주스는 이치메 바지 권주스는 바시세 투마리 딜을 하데 추교스는 디게 세 투그레선 티지다는 지금에 바래지 이 삼단의 지금 말에 다 권주스는 이체베 토네 양 권주 소무추교스 말이야 아니 조치네 줘야게 티지다는 지고래지 그래서 권주스는 이체 예배 토네 다 추교스 말이야 티지다는 지고래가 바시세 된다 주요 친시세는 지고래지 권주스는 이치메 바지 권주스는 요토 딜레 하버 주요소마디기 두투를 바치 세투그레선 티제단에 디지고 말해지 그래서 권주스는 이치메 바자르고 권주스는 이치 예배토네 권주스 이치 예배토네다 최경선바세디 개빈 권주스미 제수 장애에 대해서 상기이 최래 튕긴 주거에 대해서 디네 자당을 주고 바치세야래 튕긴 주에 바치선 조친의 제로 세스네 티제단에 지고래지 삼단하로지
So when one experiences obstacles of any kind, obstacles in your activities, firstly, do not blame the three jewels, thinking that I have faith in the three jewels, my life should be problem-free. And furthermore, if one lacks faith and then engages in some kind of protective practices with non-Buddhist deities, this is really not acceptable. If, on the other hand, though, one does have a stable trust and faith in the three jewels, and one goes for turns for assistance and engages thereby in some protective practices with some non-Buddha, unenlightened beings, but this is something that is not impeding or infracting one's faith in the three jewels, and this is okay to do. But one must be sure that one doesn't degenerate one's faith in the three jewels.
고 현대 장지 디 튕게 주야다 디기 주야다 강아셀이야 탑신달라 되나 디고로 받아 되니게다 되니 권주스는 이시메바 매비 토네 다 탑신 때마디 지겨 말해서 디 송고를 되셔야 돼. 딜레기오망에 그래서 무슨 아다딩이 바치세 오디네 건조스물게 때때세 두고 말해디 주교스말로 숨매드네 숨매게 세 두고 그래서 비기 지지제 줘라 삼는 디다는 지교 말해제래 다지정 동아세야데 디기 두야 돼 건조스미 세 두고 그래서 비 이시 예배 토네 아니 지주 주교스말에 지지하는 지기를 해제래 상기 낭보 말했으나다 낭보 임바에 많이 숨마가 낭보 예로 봐 낭보를 봐 저기 숨바시네 낭보 차르고 낭보 숨바 차르고 봐다.
So when one does a protective practice to an unenlightened protector, it's important not to have at the outset the thought of, in this instance, the three jewels cannot help me, therefore I'm turning to this unenlightened being. This would be a mistake. Then one one's faith in the three jewels has been harmed. But if one's faith in the three jewels remains stable, then to turn to a protector for assistance with an obstacle, then this is completely fine.
제가 내 디니기 지팀에 탑신 봉화스대야 수수랑랑기 지게 침가나 줘야든 전가나야 줘야게 행하를 쉬어이네 나지 딜레 교바데 군주스미 교그레스미 교고주 군주스미 캔스미 군주스미 이체비 토네 단지 지게 소소depu지 초회의 소depu지 Dene and Tapshen and Yajik, Delia, Chimtu chicken, and the Chimtu Balasoba, Tapshan, Dene Bisha, Danga Yorwada. Dayajik or the Deniki Kamatiki, the conjunction that I say 2 years Kaya, Maraconjum, the Nuba Yomarsimbi, that's Ichi Mevache, and that or the Chimtu was Ichi Mato, conjunction that kept on the Carpaya Yore 7. Dine samdana jigo mare she da nganzu dushine jeza de deni gonjusun yi maybe tone soso kanga sege tapshen jidinbe tapshen dena da jigo mares da gonjusun yi yebe tone dushine jeo tap dena jigo le zulda.
So perhaps it'll be clearer if I give an example from regular life. Let's say one is being charged with something and faces potential imprisonment. So here, one should still, based on one's faith, make supplications to the 3 jewels, but not leave it there. Then turn to a lawyer, and you'll rely on the lawyer to represent you well in this case. So this is completely fine. Your faith in the 3 jewels is not being harmed by you relying on a lawyer. But on the other hand, if you think, I'm in this predicament, what can the 3 jewels do for me here? And one places one's faith solely in the lawyer, then that is mistaken. Then one's refuge has been harmed. So then relate this then to the former cases.
Consciousness yi ma sheba chigyo mares de yi ma sheba conscious nigo yo mares yi ma sheba jan susu gila kyamro me ba charu gores jesa dine enza an didire jesa yi ma sheba chigyo mares jesa da consciousness de kanga seya delia ne sewa sho de consciousness gyobe nigo yo re ne conscious je ya consciousness ya chebo phoya de so de je dine di gala ya ne kanga seya ge digi tablam chiktimbi tablam kare chik chyo somale chinchi tanggo wenada dine ga zo de kamjiri se timje ba je wenada du shedi nan ki rimato consciousness yi ma cheba jeje andi oda consciousness mi di gyop tu ma pando yo ma je ma je yo ma sembe sam ta je andi le tabsha nar chiktimbe sungmar je na dine ge shandale tabshi ta je be na samlo de ta be na an ge consciousness yi che la ru go re je sa yi da su su kyam ro tong ru go re je sa dine ga ji go ma re se don da di sungmo ma do je kyam ro ke len da mi le me cha sa la ji sungmo ma re.
It's important to understand or keep in mind the reason why there are these refuge trainings. They are there to train, for us to train our mind in, thereby to deepen our refuge. So this is why these 6 and the former 3 and 3 were mentioned. This, by training our mind in this way, our refuge in the 3 jewels will deepen. By acting contrary to this, our refuge will be harmed. So therefore, in this instance, it's not saying everyone needs to be a Buddhist, but what it is saying is that as a Buddhist, to ensure that your trust in the 3 jewels isn't harmed, this is the way you should place your trust in those other than the 3 jewels. Do so first by supplicating the 3 jewels, re-establishing your heartfelt connection there, and then turning elsewhere for someone to help in a supportive role. That is fine to do. But one should act in a way that's in accordance with these trainings, because then one's refuge will not be harmed. And if one's refuge is harmed, one's whole journey of spiritual development will be impeded.
Madaya Jawa Karichebe no Gonjusum so Chene so de Chemado Jitembige and Tapshenda Legachigyo Mare said Chidani Gansa Chasana Sungo Marida. And the Koyagin Yagaduade.
Just to be clear, it's not saying that other traditions or deities have no existence or have no beneficial purpose. But this is advice for Buddhists to deepen and make stable their refuge in the three jewels. So this is advice for those who have gone for refuge, how to train their mind to strengthen that refuge. It is not a critique of other religions saying they are no good, but it's saying for those who are Buddhists, this is how you ensure that your refuge stays strong and, in fact, strengthens.
소속이 대권에서 껴서 마저바이나 소속의 교연되는 용어를 받기다. 안딘 모두 신 하고 전에 아니 권조스미 그전 제수 전에 연대 대바 제주도 제제 야 아는 인내 좀 천래 좀 시대 아주 인내 좀 시대 다 쇼게 니야 아주 권조스미야 되네 판연 전에 겹서 줘야 아니 니메고 공대와 안디네게 판연 전에 겹서 줘와 아니 되네게 네가 라모데 야 지금 도시네 겹서 줘야 삼다다 되네야 천하이나 천야 이세의 친구들과 천대와 이세의 내야 직접 수에 좀 오버네야 즉 도스캡스에 제가 제례가 직접 수 랜죽 천내 숨일래 숨도신 겸로 제고를 해서 다디 야네 야도 제여도 이메고라야 잘 가시에 숨스제야다 천하원 숨자반 두신의 야네 쟁이 전 얘네 이메 따발 기디나 안지게 겸로 야 겸로디 계도와서 책으로 와도 공부전에 점로대야 뭐 공부도 좋아 책을서들 일해서 채널 숨도 치는 계속 오래 했어야지.
The fifth common training relating to all three objects of refuge. Having understood its benefits, go for refuge 3 times a day and 3 times at night. Here we are, this training again, its very purpose is to help us deepen and strengthen our refuge in the three jewels. So we're being encouraged 3 times in the day, 3 times at night, to recall, firstly, our reason for turning to the three jewels. So you remember from the causes, there was fear of suffering, and to recall the sufferings of samsara, and then generate faith that the three jewels have the capacity to guide us to gain protection from the sufferings of samsara. So here 3 times a day, 3 times in the day, 3 times at night, we recall the reasons for turning to the three jewels in the first place. So we generate a revulsion towards the sufferings of samsara, and then we recall the many qualities of the three jewels and the kindness they have shown ourselves and beings. Then in this way, we go for refuge. So this guidance then, hopefully is clear, that it's not merely about reciting a refuge verse 6 times a day. It is about generating this mind of going for refuge due to wanting to receive the guidance and committing to strive in that guidance so as to ensure one doesn't fall to the lower realms or continues to suffer even in the higher realms. And by engaging this reflection repeatedly every day, one's refuge becomes strong and stable within.
영아로 쉐베네 권조숨디파 이체베 대바디파 알르교 말에서 그러다 간실레다 이제 시에게 견섬도 소라 영아 쉐베네 아다 권조숨디 이치메 세베게 삼노디 발르교 말에다 제가 디네 인상 안쪽에 소소 소라바 시에게 영아치 레베이나야 권조숨디야 근데 이치디 아말려 바시 샤고레 에서지 소감 대 세계에 치야서 내가 지금 제모를 아당 제모를 제시 아당 권조숨의 이치메 세야지가 라이저 어두센 레비오 말에스 제모 치야 권조숨의 이치메 바지교 말 세계에 치야 권조숨이다 메도죠 송我是 이제 되게 메도와제 권조숨의 이치제 도시는 대 제모를 치 제내 권조숨의 이치메 권조숨이요 말 권조숨의 이치메 권조숨이 고엘의 동아를 겹투고 말에 세비게 어두스 레비오 말에서 삼다교 말에서
The final training. Maintain your refuge and do not forsake the three jewels at the cost of your life, not even in jest. This then means that there really are no circumstances in which it is okay to give up your refuge from your heart. One should, in all circumstances, one's faith, one's trust in the three jewels should remain steadfast. And one should be on guard to never being overwhelmed by intense problems to turn away from the three jewels. And moreover, one shouldn't even create such imprints through joking or jest, but one should be quite adamant within oneself about the importance and the role the three jewels play within.
Dadi deshi dadi drukdi ma do shen sonja ngi dat ma sonja ba de drukdi dadi ne druk na ne dangbo ngan zui de dadi yorwa konjo sumi kyabar da yuen chi zu tembe yang na yang do kyapsu zhuwa se de dadi de dangbo ni de de singor de de kyabar she de ngar she ba da chi 아니요. 나보니 ngarshe 바다를 치당 치나당 군주 숨 낭편주의 개발당 대대기 윤대 양양 셈바 오스데 되지 당보되던 마 제름 지금 예 군주 숨이 개발의 윤대 지수되면 양양 수첩 좋아서 당보되게다 삼당하디 마 두순거리든 마 당보니세 당보스 ngarshe 바다를 선딩이를 약티징을 쉐바디 아니 군주 숨이 치다 난기 윤대 개발 친난기 개발 아니 군주스음 낭편주기다 대시 쉬와 나신 아니 된바 상여점의 겹된바 버서 최고제 겹무에서나 개념을 겹르게 다로래서 두세 인데 시비 토네 안에 두시네 야나야도 대다기 인데 야나야 셈리야 잼바지 야야 셈바 두시네 셈 인데게 야나야도 셈네 젠제 내 겹수 좋아들 예사지 제시를 두스무도
Lama Tsongkhapa listed the 6 common trainings. So now to look at them individually. So the first, by recollecting the distinctions and excellent qualities of the three jewels, go for refuge again and again. So as explained above, think again and again about what extinguishes Buddhists from non-Buddhist teachings, as well as about the distinctions among the three jewels and their excellent qualities. So what has been presented in this chapter is the various qualities of the three jewels, or the excellent qualities. So we heard that the first outline were the causes for going for refuge, the second were the objects of refuge, and then the third was looking at the qualities of each of the objects of refuge. So we saw there that the Buddha is the founder teacher, in that he is the one who presented the complete and unmistaken path by which we train our mind and gain freedom from suffering. And that the actual refuge is the Dharma jewel, the true paths and true cessations within the minds of Arya beings, and which we strive to cultivate within. And the Arya beings, the Sangha jewel, are our companions on this path. So we've had these distinctions and excellent qualities presented before. These we need to reflect on again and again. And the various aspects of the entirety of the Buddhist teachings, these were covered covered in brief in the earlier chapters in the books. We looked at it a couple of years ago, and will be covered now in detail as one continues through the graduated stages of training in the path to enlightenment. And in this way, one comes to recognize the uniqueness of the Buddhist path in terms of recognizing the causes of our suffering and the method by which to gain complete freedom from those causes. So this is what needs to be reflected on again and again, leading us to go for refuge again and again, because it's through cultivating the causes, the fear of suffering, and one's faith in the three jewels, that one will wholeheartedly go for refuge again and again.
ane chebo pya dela ane jin nangsen le pa juro sungdo dangbo khare yorasene da rang la dele gangjo tamje konjo gi jindu shepara jela ane sheba suwe sanbe cheba jawo seji de ji somba na shuba na jire jesa rang la ya gewe zawa digi tuya ki gawa kang yo ba da chedele na so so digi kang chung ba anji de chasang da sang konjo sumi gedin re sebe dele tamje kang ju wa tamje gedin re de na ju da chedele ya lutin milu rimbo ju top chedele na ju giwe jawa 상기 지소장 기회적 고급라바디 되니게 라바디야 네 개왕아망 저기 네 출음하고 손에 아니 손발에 밀려좀 토바래 안디 저기 개왕아메 개와 두비게 냠 개와 유에도 바디 바샤를 되는 아주 대체들이나 기회냠네 지고 바디 라바디 책으로 지사디 개왕아 뭐 출음냠네 손야다 디 고급라야 돼 상기기 깨진 차대로 지서 건축수면 깨진이 지사 랑라 세틸이야 데기다 데니기 냠네지요 고가브라와 셈바삼바삼다야데 상권주스미 깨지리 세다 안에 지 세딜을 소수게 데니기 개wen 냠네지야다 데네 상예기 취송바다 개된 건조 데니기 건주스미 깨지리 누신의 삼단제 나델이야 지 소수게 진천보 인자다 소수게 진수에게 된다래 안에 야상예리야 최고 건조리야 최고 부야디게 안도신의 부야디 데니게 삼다진 쇼 부고래 사실 대지 다다대지 망슈사.
Second of the six, by recollecting the great kindness of the three jewels, always make effort to honor them and offer them the first portion of your food and drink. So this now is going to be presented by Lama Tsongkhapa in quite some detail. So looking at the first sentence, recognize all the well-being you experience as the kindness of the three jewels and make offerings to them by acknowledging that. So this is similar to what I've already presented this morning. So look in the first bit. Here we are encouraged to recognize that all the well-being you experience. So here we can think particularly of this precious human rebirth. The reason that we have achieved this precious human rebirth has come about, as the text continues, due to the kindness of the three jewels. Because it was we've achieved this precious human rebirth because we accumulated the causes. But our accumulation of the causes required their own sequence of causes. And that would have been the guidance of the three jewels. So through our guidance in lives previous to this, we would have known that we need to accumulate particular causes to achieve a remarkable outcome, like we have experienced in this life. Causes of ethics, generosity, patience, joyous perseverance, and prayer. These were accumulated by ourselves due to the kindness of others, our interdependent relationship with others, in particular, thinking of the three jewels. So recognizing the kindness that they have shown us just in this one way, we want to make offerings. So this is perhaps best expressed as honor them through offerings, honor them through making offerings. And then it continues to them by acknowledging that. So this word translated as acknowledging is again better translated as make offerings due to a sense of gratitude for that. So recognizing the great kindness that the sentient being, that the three jewels show us, and the benefit we receive due to their kindness leads to a sense of gratitude. And our way to repay that is to honor them through making offerings.
당한줄이야 건주스미 되니게 소수의 기회 냠는 체야다 되는 고급 개화사와 상기 건주스미 깨진 인자 당한줄이 깨진 쇠에 가르스네 건주스미 최고 소수의 개화사 되는 최고 표에다 소수의 냠는치네 개화 주변에다 상기 건주스미야 아니 깨진 사바데 연 차고를 제가스네 건주스미라 최고 표에다 소수의 개화사바 있나 다 두비셔봐 상기기 건주스미 최바디 하는 야푸에의 약속이 차고로와 재산 제바 소화세 제바 소화세 상기 건주스미 아주리 깨진 첨부 수 제바디 내가 아주리나 파 아니 파 부에의 가르스네다 최고 부에다 냠네 제에게 되는 개월 주게 되서 그러다.
We'll talk a little further about this final word, acknowledging. So acknowledging, again, better translated here as gratitude. So we understand this from society, that if someone helps us, in particular if they help us in a time of great need, and in particular if they are helping us when it is not expected or required, a deep sense of gratitude arises towards those who have helped us in this way. And it leads us to want to repay that kindness, to give them something in return, give them something of value, of real meaning to us. So this is a common occurrence in our world, that when others give you help, especially in a time of need, and especially when it's unexpected or not required, they aren't made to do so, we want to thank them. We want to express our gratitude. And this here, through recognizing that all the well-being that we experience is due to the kindness of the three jewels, this feeling of gratitude and the resulting wish to honor them through offerings will naturally arise within us.
And then sadon gundu kwebes dece deda puyu cheba macha nang ne cho mongbo ce chung zobe chuyen je gang la longju puyi yang ning taba ne cheba jawos.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, since you constantly need to eat and drink, you will amass a great accumulation of merit with little trouble if you offer the first portion of food and drink each time. Therefore, you should offer the first portion of whatever you enjoy, including water, from the depths of your heart.
Kirina Gabriel Main Baji Mutu Machaba and the Dusheba Tsomangbu and Tsoside, Sunam side, Bedusu Gale Chunjun Chilia, Chungus, and Galesha Yamos, Gale Chunjunalia, and Sunam Chimbosa to Warriors, Denizam, Tugubaza, Chingan the Churu, Chuyenche, Gangla Longi, Pugi. Ning Taban the Chibajo, Jene Zadangi, Chudoi, Gabrina, Jaruina, Kalas, Karina, Deli Pudia, Conjuli, Chivo people, Ning Tapan, Yagonjusumi, getting Jesus, Indian Tembeton, Conjus on the Puyas and Bedusin, some Dangores, Lusumua.
This is something I already covered this morning. So looking at the words, since you constantly need to eat and drink, so here, this is not just saying when one has meals. Likewise, when one has something to drink too, we should offer to the three jewels. And this is something, it says here at the end, that we should do each time. So every single time we drink, we eat, we should offer it to the three jewels. And why are we being so explicitly encouraged in this very simple practice? Well, because it doesn't really take any time, doesn't require any effort or hardship. So it's something that is very easy to do. And again, it should be clear from how the verse is structured. Offering of our food and drink follows on from recognizing that all the well-being that you experience is due to the kindness of the three jewels. And therefore you want to honor them through making offerings due to this resulting sense of gratitude. With that sense of gratitude having arisen in that way, one will offer your water, one will offer your meal with sincerity. And this is how we end up amassing a great accumulation of merit with little trouble. So what I want to emphasize is that when one engages in Dharma practice, try not to just do it as an expression of words, but it needs to come from your heart. This is
급 투비 뉴바디 두 민도 제바제 삼다이도 뉴바디 여바 하고 있던 아주 이시 하고도 이시 채용으로 되네자 되네 인도 템베 토네야 원주스나 접수 조그레스 대야다 아주 되네게 첸래 숨나서 닐래서 소바 안데 존나 첸래서 닐래서 데레 마주나 닐래 첸래 숨 숨래 마와 기디 텐데 가야야로 이진나 되네게 도시나 땡고레스 도시한테 제고레스 안디 마세 안나가서게 진인지 첨부 지수제 진인지 첨부 때에 마세 셈 인지 첨부 딜레 하바 셈 개체와지 판도 체와지 매바 셈 인지 첨부 해야지 전주 셈게 유한 자원 인지를 때에 예고고래 아니 전주 셈 냠술련 제 차외제라 파신주의 냠는 제바대야 자원 인지 첨부디 또 비용고 공배도 당고고래 상계 고보 톱선의 현례 취 손야디 자원 인지 첨부 될라 때에 취 두자려 취 된제 아니 되니게 펜버주고 인지 첨부 배 마세 셈 딜레 하바 예체와지 민도와 표현체와지 민도 제사 되리에다 예셈 전주 인지 첨부 반념의 지기 세배다 요시네 다 군주스음 상계 군주 혼자에 인지 첨부 냠술에 탈신바래 지난 기룡 거저 고런주 대장에 인지 첨부 냠의 지기 세배냐 소수기네 냠 인지 곰 냠는 제 현실 셈전 대래양 한샤래야 인지 공고야 람든 제지 인지 공주고래서 인지래야 고고래서 온두신의 소수기 냠는 제고래서 어디네 자다 안 갑래 강한 체험되다 지게 자와 가르치면은 군주소로 이체 매배 토네 아니 신 자와 가라 맞제바 최대 준비 자와제도 군주소로 이체나 소립제 되네 아니 가서 자와도 신 제고래서 지난 소소래 강아지다 양지 강아지다 당한 군주소 맞겨서 판도면도 군주소로 누가면도 세베이 되니게 군주소 뭐예요 말해서 지난 강아 제 소라 바바다 강아서 체베네 군주소 마다와지 군주소의 이치지 냠는 제고래 두신의 삼당고래서 되네 삼당에는 아주 고니고도 뭐 공부도 좋도고래서 단 냠는 제다데 두신은 아주리알 삼당나 두수 당고래디 뭐지지 베지 제고래서 나는 두신의 갈로로지 냠는 제디리도 하다고
The way to utilize these many opportunities every day to accumulate great masses of merit is through recalling the many qualities of the three jewels individually, as well as the great kindness that you and others have received due to the three jewels. And one can do this whilst preparing one's meal, so that when one sits down to eat, or when preparing one's drinks, and when one sits down to drink, one's mind has already generated a fresh sense of gratitude. And again, one does that whilst preparing what you're going to drink or what you're going to eat. And having now freshly cultivated the sense of gratitude, then offer your meal. And in this way, you'll create extensive merit throughout the day, because most people eat 3 times a day and drink throughout the day. So in this way, one will quickly amass great stores of merit. And then, whilst it's not explicitly stated, but it ties to what I've presented earlier, I'd encourage you also, when you are offering the meal, to do so with a deep understanding that the very reason that I have received the kindness of the three jewels is due to great compassion in particular. It's due to the great compassion in the mind of the Arya beings that they have been striving to help me. So the kindness that I have received, and therefore the cause of the gratitude I'm feeling, is due to the great compassion. There is nothing more important than this. Therefore, by eating and drinking now, the strength and vigor I give my body, I will utilize to cultivate great compassion for the sake of all. And moreover, this merit that I'm creating by making this offering, I dedicate it so that all beings can come to generate great compassion within them. And so, by making this offering, I make the commitment to both strive, in particular, to strive to cultivate great compassion, and in general, to live in accordance with the Buddha Dharma, with the teachings of the Dharma, to ensure that my mind in general is in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha, and in particular, to cultivate and have great compassion dominant within. And so this is how I encourage you to engage in offerings of drink and food throughout the day. And moreover, when you experience problems and difficulties, do not respond in a way that is contrary to the Dharma. Guard your mind. Ensure that your response is one of the Dharma. And do not blame others. In particular, do not blame the three jewels for unwanted hardships in one's life. Rather, turn to the three jewels for inspiration. Inspiration to utilize these hardships in a way that turns out to be greatly beneficial. So then, thank you. We can conclude therefore this morning. But if you have questions, then please feel free to ask. Seppo?
I have a couple of questions. In the offering of the food and drink, where the first portion, are we meant to actually separate the first portion out, or is it just a mental offering?
So when offering the first portion of food and drink, especially because there's this inclusion of the first portion, that this term, doesn't mean we're supposed to separate a bit of the meal and the drink and not eat it all.
Di mare, di injimi kala tueshe ya puye mare, samlo nanglo ya, chasang puye se de. Samlo nanglo ya, ni kala di chasang konchulo puye se be baba che gore che. Pare. Dinani midua de nesi. Dinani midua. Yo mare. Deni puye jidin bi lukse nala deni puye yungore. Puye kaladi juko soso maza tuesen pa dambo puye de nena de lu ya puye yungore de ko cha lega le na la yungore ma de dina de tuese puye se de yo mare de ko puye dambo de puye dambo la de soso maza nye la dambo puye la wo ma de dambo tues puye se yo mare dambo puye la do puye dambo puye se ne ya de ba puye wa 그 풀스네 자와래 pu유스네 당보지 오래 마산이라 당보스네 pu유세 당보지 줘 당보지 마산이라 pu유고래서 오래 pu유세 맞아 근데 뒤에서 pu유장다 pu유고 계신 말에 지사 되니기 양 지딘 비가 저당나야 뒤에서 pu유여래 칼라하면 당보지 봐 주수로 야 pu유 연구래디 이게야 말에 된다라 Dini puwe tues puwe shanda digi puwe me samda kyo mare se di no zhire. Chesa dangbo masa nye le ya dangbo puwe se dangbo che wo di chasa yi masa nye le ya puwe wo re so dana di.
So what it does not mean is that you separate a first portion from what you eat or drink to offer. Rather what it means is you first offer your meal and only then partake of it. So this is all done mentally. One does nothing physically. So this word, so then I ask Geshe, so then why does it say first portion? Because it's a specific word that is translated as first portion. And he says it doesn't mean first portion. It means first offer. So how it's translated is how this word is translated, but maybe then the dictionaries are mistaken. So what it means is the first, before you eat, first offer it. So in English, then we drop the word portion and it would make sense. And the way that it would be done in a physical manner where the first portion is actually offered is if you are having a communal meal with your teacher, and then the Lama would be served first. So there, literally, the first portion is being given to the teacher. So this is a way that it is the first portion, and it is being done physically. But in terms of our own normal daily consumption, then it's just we offer our entire meal, we offer it first.
그래서 나도 고야들에 제대로 골로테 닝아도 하다 근데 칼라르는 당보디 떼식 바푸디 야군주로 푸이 되네 소소라 사야습니다. 나디디 시고 말 당보수 맞아 마산이엘이야 당보디 당보야 푸고래서 푸이세디 원고래.
So to be clear the meaning here, before we eat or drink, we offer our entire meal. Then we eat and drink.
The other thing I want to clarify, just a little bit, but in the dependent, completely dependent, I'm just wondering if all the virtue that would exist anywhere would be traced back to the enlightened activities of Bendigo.
So due to interdependence, would we say that all virtue of any kind created by whomever can be traced back to the three jewels?
지단데 건주스미 친리 온도시나제 용구라 디단 디레생한 중에 세부 시토야죠 말하다 상이 주버세디 데 람든 제디 단 감나 매버도 튀비게 나소시 용거로 봐. 이네 용원자다 베네 데니기 데 밤메기 아니 부울이야. 는 지게 어디디 향래 지 구마게 비오마다 디지게 말 구마마게 제 삼당으로서 랍지게 하셔로 봐. 디수기 밤에 삼로나 레바데 자와 삼다네 직 예마 그런 지기 랍지 현다진 랍네 레교데 차리고 봐. 진짜 당은 두시네 자위 파 삼다베는 다음에 상기기 야 지게 가서래 자와 니지타고 투바데 차고래 이나 내가 불려 야 지금 사바기야 용으로 받아.
In general, it is said so, but if one then that all virtue wherever and by wherever, by whomever and in whatever manner virtue is accumulated, comes through or due to the kindness of the three jewels. So this is said, and if one were to look at particular instances, then it will get a little more complicated, a little less unclear. Where it is much clearer is in terms of the guidance that the Buddhas give to beings, or that the three jewels give to beings in accordance with their own karmic disposition and spiritual inclination to accumulate causes that will eventually lead them to cultivating a path. This will come from the three jewels who present the path. And the way the three jewels will be guiding beings is not just directly in ways that are obviously Dharma teachings to cultivate Dharma paths, but indirectly will be influencing beings to cultivate the causes that will eventually bring them to that place. So if we take as an illustration that looks like it has nothing to do with the three jewels, parents will raise their children to have ethical standards. So they will teach their children, do not steal, do not lie, and so forth. So the child learns this from their parents. The parents would have learned this both from their own sets of parents as well as from society as well. So we could say at the coarsest level, the most superficial level, what we learn from the causes that lead to virtue are widespread. They're not only solely from the three jewels. But if one goes way back, looking at the subtler influences, then we could say that it all comes from the three jewels.
이게 저게 지다 디고 맞제 봤으면 개와사야 차교 말에 개와사야 되는 저기 도시네 디고 맞제 봤으면 개와사야 차교 말와 직신의 뒤에 당은 저게 냠는 집이 qabla 간실에 다 개와 가리 이내 건주스물 때네 기기 외나라 메나라 냠는 집이 qabla 수수게 삼로 도시네 건주스물 때네 건주스 깨지제서 전고 그래서 근데 다시 냠지에 삼다 이런 냠는 집이 qabla 샘제 탐지기 동안에 소소를 끼지는 영화거의 동안에 퇴하고 위인에서도 세퇴에 매르와다 샘제 다시 냠지도 샘제 탐지 동안 라라 미 샘제 동안에 삼당 공고로와 이 위인에서도 영화거의 말와데 이네 영화에 사지기 제기로 와 샘제 동안 매봐서로 위인에서도 영화 매봐로 이네 소수기 직 샘제 다시 냠지 검데 샘제 탐지기 강아 동안에 라라 미 랑기 대위 개와 대화 가는 시간을 땅제 또现在 공묘도 소식이 냠는 인도 뭐 공부도 표해야 된다라 이 공고만 모인에서라 샘제 탐지기 동안에 소설의 미제 샘제를 동안에 봐서 요말 받아 진짜 이내다 냠는 집이 갑자기 냠는 집이 갑라 소식이 삼모도 인도도 휴실이 도고 야기로 오르와 디제는 냠는 제 송고라 디나시 땅 안줄에 건조스는 이시딩 안줄에 샘지 개와 가르나다 소속에 디기 가르주에네 개와 가서 건조스미 끝에 선배 삼 건조스나 대바 제 시우도 첨부 중에서 기고고로 봐 디게 된다라 냠는 게 무슨 거로 봐도 그냥 개와 춘주자나 건조스미 레게와 레다 말에 세리 내니기 기시 시가 말다 어쨌든
Tsongkhapa 정리를 Tsongkhapa Dorje 가리려는 말이 나오죠. 그래서 대판 마사가 개와 nimba
개와 디고 맞에는 개와 능해봐요 말해.
지금 Tsongkhapa Dorje 가리려는
제가 지단 개와 세디 인지미지 디고 맞에 봤으면 개와 사기를 배서 디기시 대디 전에 제와요 말등이도 두스라래 말. 다들인데 다들 제와디 다신염지나 삼다는 제와요 돼.
Let's make two further points. The first is just because someone or something is not accumulating non-virtue, that doesn't necessarily mean virtue is being accumulated. Or maybe to express it more clearly, just because someone isn't engaging in non-virtue, that doesn't mean necessarily virtue is being accumulated. And then furthermore, when we are here in the context of to come really specifically to your question, we're in the context of strength of the precepts or the trainings to strengthen and deepen our refuge. In this context, we are Buddhists, and in particular in our group, we are practitioners. So therefore we are looking to enhance our practice and therefore our progression towards the cultivation of a path of a bodhisattva. To aid that, we recognize that all the virtue we accumulate comes about in dependence on the three jewels. And this is really fine to say, this is correct to say. But if we look far more broadly throughout the realms of existence, at every particular small instance of virtue, did that come from the three jewels? Perhaps, perhaps not. But that's beyond the scope of what is being looked at here. And a similar example would be the training in giving and taking within the context of equalizing and exchanging self with others. So there one expresses the heartfelt aspiration, may all the suffering of others ripen upon me, and may all my virtue ripen upon them. In this way, may no other being ever suffer again, and all the virtue that I have and am accumulating may it ripen in their continuum. So one is expressing this, but it isn't necessarily happening in reality. One may wish to take on someone else's suffering. One may wish it with complete sincerity, but it doesn't actually happen. So what one is utilizing is this meditation as a technique to develop a deep strength of mind that whatever hardship one encounters will not overwhelm me. I will take it on and I will transform it into the path. So similarly, in our context here, when we state all merit comes from the three jewels. In terms of our training to develop a path, completely correct. And that is sufficient. Every instance throughout the world? Well, perhaps, but perhaps not.
All right.